my mom and dad retired many years ago in the Okanagan Valley, there was a place they used to like to drive to, and it was called Cox Bay. It was on the Pacific Ocean, and it used to take them all day to get there, even though they lived fairly close by, comparatively speaking anyway. Now, to give you an idea of where it is, here's Winnipeg. Everybody knows where Winnipeg is. In fact, a very famous person came from Winnipeg, Winnie the Pooh. If you don't believe me, Google it. Anyway, here's Cox Bay, probably about 2,000 or more kilometers away. We are presently at Cox Bay, and we're about a mile high looking straight down. And there's sort of an unusual thing about this beach. It's not really the type of sand that you think of. It's nice clean sand, but it's not yellow. It's sort of a gray volcanic sand. And when the tide goes out, it gets extremely hard. When you walk on it, it's like walking on cement. I could ride a skinny, tired bicycle on it. Well, I used to be able to. And I wouldn't sink in even a millimeter. Most unusual sand. And Mom used to like to walk up and down that beach. The red line sort of represents where she may have walked. And I drew that just so that I could measure the length. It's about 1¼ kilometers, or 3/4 of a mile. And she would occasionally pick up stuff, sort of like beachcombing, I guess you call it. And she picked up a souvenir. And this is it. Now, my first thinking on this was, why don't I just cut it right up the middle here and then incorporate it somehow into a couple of different pens, one for myself and one for my brother. And I had thought what I could do is I could take and make two blanks out of it. See, they'll fit quite nicely. And somehow have so that a piece was showing. Well, sort of like this, like this wood here is showing. But then afterwards I realized very little is actually going to be showing. And I thought, that's a shame. That's a real shame. So I'm not going to do that now. I'm not going to have anything, it won't have anything to do with pens other than it is a pendant. Yeah, sort of a play on words there, right? Anyway, let's get going. Oh, before we start on it, and I tell you exactly what I'm planning, I want to show you some interesting little things that I noticed about this thing. Now, when I brought this back from Kelowna a few weeks ago, it was completely covered in some sort of shellac. I think possibly what Dad did was he dipped it into shellac, let it harden, dipped it in again, let it harden, and it took about 2 hours to get that shellac off yesterday. But I think I've got it back to pretty much exactly the way it looked when my mother picked it up off the beach. It would have looked like that. It, would have had these little ridges, and yeah, we're back to normal, except for the hole. Now here's something what I found was even more interesting. If you look on the very end, you'll notice what appear to be little craters. Well, what that was little pieces of black volcanic sand that had embedded itself in the ends. And I'm kind of sorry now I picked those out, but back when I was originally thinking of splitting this up the middle, I didn't want to be sawing through sand. Well, anyway, maybe we'll look at the other end. Yeah, there was quite a large one right there. There's about 8 or 10 of them, as best I remember. I realized that I didn't go to the trouble of drawing all the little lines on it to make it look like the grain in the wood. However, the size is to scale. And what I've done here is I've pretended I turned a block of wood to 2 inches in diameter, and I've glued our little piece of driftwood onto it, standing up on end, as shown here. Now I think you know where we're going with this. That's right, we're going to stick it into a plastic pipe. And then we're going to fill it full of Elimolite. But I was thinking, wouldn't it be nice if I could see the whole thing if it was suspended in the Elimolite? So, looking at it from the side, you can see I've got sort of a little hook affair rigged up. At least that's the plan. And we all know in these videos they don't always end up as planned. Now if you watch the Peppermill series, you'll remember how beautifully this monkey wood buffed out. Well, I was sort of saving this piece for another Peppermill, but it might have been a little on the short side anyway. I do have some walnut here, but I was kind of saving that for a mantle, for my mantle clock that I made half a year ago. Well, I'll probably never use it, but on the other hand, anyway, bottom line is I think I'm going to use this piece of monkey wood here. It's a shame, you know, if it was just a little bit wider, but anyway, we'll make this 2 inches round so it'll fit in this pipe. Once again, that's the plan. Now once again, I want to make this perfectly clear. I know it looks a lot worse than it really is, but my fingers were nowhere near in the line that blade was going in. I was standing directly behind it. I could see where it was going to go, and I could see where my fingers were. Said this before, you keep your eye on the blade, you won't stick your fingers in the blade. Well, that's not bad. I thought I was going to have to take the average of 4 lines there, but I should be able to figure that out. Tomorrow, we'll make it round.